The Gauteng Education MEC is expected to set a date for online registrations of grades 1 and 8 for the 2024 academic year. Every year since the introduction of the system, parents have been left frustrated. In January, thousands of pupils were still on the waiting list, yet to be placed at their preferred schools. Our senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila, is tracking the story for us and joins us from a school in Johannesburg where they have had various issues. What are you hearing from people on the ground there, Aviwe?
Good morning, Marcel, and it just so happens that I've been covering these online admissions and the learners returning to these schools, and I can tell you it's been a huge frustration for the parents. You can see the snaking queues around January and February while some learners are already seated in their classes. A lot of parents are frustrated, of course, saying that this system is not working for them because some of them have actually applied timelessly, handed in those documents, but still you find that in February, their learners are still at home. Let's just find out now from the spokesperson, of course, of the Department of Education, maybe what's going to change, given that we're expecting that announcement from the MEC of Education in Gauteng, Matome, Chiloane, just around 10 o'clock on this grade 1 and grade 8 online application system. Steve Mabona, thank you for joining us at eNCA, but maybe do outline what's going to be done differently this year to avoid those snaking queues that we see at various schools and also the departments of education in the province.
Thanks very much. But we really cannot underscore the fact that we have a capacity challenge in Gauteng. You know what COVID did to us. I mean, many parents would not be in a position to afford private and independent schooling. So that compounded to our challenge, of capacity. But we've been working very hard to make sure that we prepare for, closing the gap in terms of the capacity. MEC will outline on what is it that we have done and what is it that we're going to be doing. But in terms of the system, you know that each and every year we go back, review, check on what was an impediment and what we can improve. Because remember, we've been improving system yearly, after each and every term of the application, we will then go and then improve. So we've improved the system.
And you mentioned the real challenge, which is capacity. Too many learners with not enough teachers. When are you building new schools and hiring more teachers? Because the learner-teacher ratio is, of course, extreme at this stage.
No, definitely. We're working very hard to make sure that we employ more educators, but more so, building of more schools and making sure that we augment. I mean, you know that the process of self-build that we have introduced, many schools are succeeding on that. So it's a matter of us making sure that we, empower more of schools who can do that. And, the mobile units, though they are not a solution, but to a certain extent, we need to, continue to augment because when you look at how we did in terms of making sure that providing those mobile units, we did very well in closing that gap. So it's a challenge that we are facing, but making sure that we do away with.
Are there schools in the pipeline for next year to avoid those snaking queues at the various schools and departments? Maybe give us insight. How many schools are you going to be building just to prepare for next year so that you don't have that capacity challenge?
No, without going into numbers, yes, there are schools that are going to be launched. And later, during the press briefing, MEC will be in a position to give more, insight on that. We just want to confirm that, yes, we do have schools that we're going to be launching.
Okay, I just want to move on then to this shocking statistic that grade 4s in their majority can't learn. About 80% of them can't read proper sentences. Surely this is a challenge that needs to be dealt with. What's the department doing around this?
No, the Department of Basic Education nationally, they are responsible of that. There are plans already that are working very closely with all the provinces because remember, we are the implementers, but when coming to policy, DBE will then lead us on that, on interventions that we're going to be introducing, all of us, as a country. And we are hopeful that it will change because there are things that we're going to be doing to make sure that our learners read for meaning.
And what are you picking up in Gauteng in terms of what's causing this issue of grade 4s being unable to read?
No, but you'll understand that It's important that the foundation phase is key to a certain extent, that if there are challenges in the foundation phase, you'll understand that grade 4, it's now intermediate. So there are a lot of changes on grade 4. That's where learners started to be, examined, because they write, assessments, they write tests and examinations. So that's where the problem lies, because there's an interchange. So if the foundation phase, there's laxity or there's lack thereof of making sure that learners are prepared for the next phase, which is intermediate, that's where you see this problem. So we'll be working very closely with the Department of Basic Education, infuse those strategies that will assist us to make sure that we improve the work that is done in the foundation phase, because that's where the problem is. Because when we move to grade 4, we are now in the second phase, which is intermediate, and you need to be in a position to read for meaning. If you can't, then it means there was a problem in the foundation phase.
And also another issue, of course, that we're picking up is the violence in schools. What are the plans around that? Can we see even police at these various schools, or what are the discussions behind?
No, there are serious engagements. MEC will give us an outline on how we're going to be managing that, but working very closely with our sister departments, community safety, social development, make sure that we, conduct some processes that will be assisting us with our schools, with the stakeholders, with parents. We've lined up the programs that we're going to be doing, and also we have initiated that we need to tap into the wardens that have been unleashed now. We know that there's a phase 2 of training. We are hopeful that the next phase, when it's unleashed, probably schools will benefit from these wardens.
All right. Steve Mabona, thank you very much. Of course, spokesperson of the Education Department here in Gauteng, as we expect that briefing to be underway at 10 o'clock with the MEC of Education, Matome, Chiloane. A lot of issues, of course, just not only the admission issue of grade 1s and grade 8s, that, of course, we're seeing snaking queues year in and year out, and parents calling for the end to that online application system, but just the sheer violence in these schools, the capacity challenges, some of what we want to hear from the MEC on how he plans to tackle these issues.
And I'm so glad you also brought up the issue of that latest survey that really has cast a really dark shadow over our reading levels of our children, something to be seriously worried about as well. Thank you so much for that, Aviwe Mtila, on the education beat today. So please stay tuned to catch all of those updates from him.